yourself?
I can, but I don't see you. Start in a minute. So we're going to start in a minute.
Okay.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. The time is now 6:02, and I plan to call this special meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the oath of office for Dr. Linda J. Iverson. Dr. Iverson, please rise. All right, Dr. Iverson, we're going to have our district clerk read you the oath. So I'll ask you to raise your right hand.
You have to use mine.
Can you use the mic, please, Ms. Sprouse? Thank you.
My apologies. Dr. Iverson, do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and to faithfully discharge your duties as Superintendent of Schools for the Greenberg Central School District? Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. And the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, thank you very, very much. Standing and raising my right hand just makes it even more official. I'm so excited to be here finally and to be sworn in as the superintendent of Greenberg Central School District. I did talk with trustee Radjic and trustee Marissa prior to coming on board, and I wanted to talk to you tonight very briefly as the new superintendent coming in my second day. I asked for some time to just share with the audience, those remotely attending and those in the audience, just some slides around how I plan to approach the work. And so what you will hear tonight is very peripheral, nothing detailed, but it gives you some feel about me, and it gives you some feel about how I view my role and how I plan to approach the work with some very specific things, some things that I will be doing that you will hear more about. So if you can follow me with the screen on the side, I will be driving this PowerPoint. Okay, so thank you for that, and I will get released as soon as possible. So I just want to say hello. I'm here, I'm ready to start. I want to first thank the Board of Trustees for that whole process that I engaged in with them. That was with such integrity, that helped me learn even more about the great things happening in Greenberg Central, get a good feel for the community, and just the pride that exists here in this district, to make it such an attraction for me to submit an application. And I want to thank the trustees as well for helping me in my transition. It's been great the past couple of days. I've gotten a lot of nice gestures from different organizations. I certainly want to thank the Teachers Association for the lovely flowers that I received and card, as well as I received a very nice plant from the Parent-Teacher Association. So thank you for that, as well as all the central office employees who were so welcoming my first day with a small welcoming breakfast where we had an opportunity to informally begin to chat and over breakfast refreshments. So hello and thank you for all of that. So my purpose tonight is to do 5 things very briefly. I want to very briefly share with you my initial thoughts that will frame the work as the superintendent of the district. I wanted to provide some updates on the district reopening plan, and these are just updates that have been provided to date by the New York State Department of Education. As you know, those documents are fluid. The guidance we receive from the state continues to evolve and grow, and just found out 2 days ago that we're going to get an additional guidance with more updates. So, but to keep you informed, I do want to provide you with what we have to date. I also want to talk to you about the ESSER funding. This is national funding. All states receive funding from the U.S. Department of Education to support COVID and the pandemic, and we are getting a bucket of money, this third round of funding. I wanted to share that with you very briefly. I wanted to give you a few aspects of my 100-day entry plan. I will be sharing the thorough plan with the Board of Trustees first. I will be soliciting their feedback. I will be soliciting their input. And once they give me that, you will be able to see the full plan. But for the purpose of tonight, you'll just hear the peripheral of what it is and what I plan to do. And I thought you may be interested in knowing what I've done and what I'm doing this first week as I've hit the ground running. So very quickly, I'll go through these slides. I want to start with this slide here. Recovering, rebuilding, and renewing the spirit of New York schools. I wish I could take credit for this slogan, for lack of a term. I really cannot. I was combing through the website as I was away preparing to come. I stayed abreast of what was happening in New York, and visiting the website was the place to go. And I ran across this page as we approached the new year, fall 2021, and reopening schools, that titled this. And it caught my eye, because what caught my eye was the play on a prefix, to do again, recovering, rebuilding, renewing. And I know this is where we are as a nation, and this is where we are as a school district, and this is the spirit of New York schools. So playing on that, and I had just attended the reorganization meeting, and there was that prefix again, to recommit, reorg. So it says to me that this is a way we need to approach how we move forward as we begin the school year. So taking that, I wanted to begin with our vision. I mean, our vision right now as it stands is good until 2021, but as we move into this recovering, reimagining, and renewing the school year, it does begin with what we believe as a school district, the vision. And this is on our webpage. This is what I reviewed as part of my process of interviewing for this position, because I wanted to know what the district saw for our students down the road. Because vision is what we want our graduates to look like, what we want our district to be at the end of this period. So the words in green are there for a reason, because they're the ones that resonate with me, that we are saying we want a world-class school district that enables all of our students to intellectually, socially, and emotionally interact as productive citizens. So, go to the next one. Vision and vision so the slides are, I'm sorry, inverted. The recovering, rebuilding, renewing, and reimagining is what I added. So as I said to you, this is a slogan on the webpage of New York State Department, but I added the word reimagining, because I think as we're doing the recovering, the rebuilding, renewing, we also now need to approach the work, opening schools, reimagining how we do that. We've learned a lot from COVID. We've put in all types of different skills through this whole pandemic. And I don't know if we're at a point where we want to get rid of everything. I think we need to, at this an opportune time, as well as rebuild, renew, recover, it is a great time to reimagine the Greenburgh Central School District as we approach the fall. So the vision then was where I was, is where we want to be. And the mission then becomes how we're going to get there. So mission is, we plan to do this by committing ourselves, educating our students in an environment that you can see in bold again, that they will develop the lifelong learning skills that they need. As we reimagine, though, education coming off COVID, is probably now most appropriate to think about more specifically what those skills look like. So the redoing is very appropriate, very timely right now as we approach post-COVID, for lack of a term, because we still have COVID, but we have gotten better, we've learned a lot. It is the time for, as we lead this district into the next year, to take this vision, take this mission, and reimagine how we do things. Our core beliefs are those statements that you have committed to doing. We say on our website that if we believe in this vision and this mission,
then our core beliefs is what we stand for. So looking at all these preliminary prefacing this presentation, I wanted to let you know that as I began to think about the work coming in, this is how it starts. Everything starts from what we stand for. If we don't stand for something, if we aren't firm in what we believe, if we don't have a vision for where we want to go, and we don't know how we're going to get there, nothing matters. I approach the work from this lens first, and you will hear me repeatedly go back to what is our vision. If that's not what we stand for, we just do not do it. So that's the opening for everything I will do when I'm working with principals and working around the district. It will be around our vision and mission for what we stand for as a school district. So briefly, my experience in education and administration, I've learned one thing. School systems consist of 5 broad areas: school student achievement, organizational capacity and alignment, operations and finance, community and public relations, parental involvement and engagement. These buckets make up a school system. As I said, they're very, very broad. But as I was away, waiting to come, I began looking and observing board meetings because I wanted to find out on my own if I could start gathering some information on other strengths that the district had and areas that needed some improvement. And I want to show you that these are reoccurring things that I heard through board meetings, through parent comments, through public participation. I love that there was a lot of strength and pride in the diversity in this district. The STEAM program, the World Languages program, our AP classes, our IB program. I also heard areas of improvement, and they were more in the abstract realm, that we need to improve our communication. We need to be more transparent. I heard that over and over again, that we need to rebuild trust, and we need to look at our facilities. That's why having a vision and a commitment to work together for that is important. So I wanted to share with you that this is the beginning of my work to begin to find out what we need to focus on by listening already to what I know you have said on board meetings and public participation. So given all of that, if our vision is what we said it is, we want to be a world-class school district. If our mission is we're going to do it by creating lifelong learners, if our belief statements are that we believe in our heart all of these things we stand for, then we need as a district a theory of action that supports that. So if I begin to think about that, I put it together in your if-then statement that says, if we're going to continue to be that district that we say we are in Greenburgh, we need to recover, to rebuild, to renew, and to reimagine. We're going to have to look at our instructional platform, and that transforms our practice, not the students. Students are never the problem. It is the adults in the system are those who will transform a district. So my focus will be in all of my work working with adults to become the very best they can to support student achievement, transforming so that we do rebuild, renew, and reimagine how kids learn and how kids, when they leave us, look at what skills they have upon graduation. So when I worked with principals in Baltimore City Public Schools, and I was supervising them at this point in schools, and what I've learned from all of my experiences to do all that I just said, these things must be in place. So we must have high accountability of adults. We must have high expectations of adults. We must have consistency in practices among the adults. Adults need support. We must look at data. We must have results, because what I've learned is what gets measured gets done. We must have fidelity. Adults doing the work as it is meant and intended to be done. We must build these relationships, and we must build our capacity always to get better, because ultimately what it impacts are all of our students, and it makes our practices more equitable so that all kids get what they need. Not equal, equitable, meaning that equal plus more. So if we're going to become that district, we need to focus on these things. So I will be watching, and you will hear, and staff will see, accountability is going to be huge. expectations are going to be expected. But you'll get the support to get there. We're already there. We're going to be challenged just one more plus one to even do better. So this was on the website around the equity piece. You already see the pandemic did raise our consciousness throughout the year around equity and funding, equity and resources. The state of New York, I was very proud now to be a member of, a resident of New York and working in New York City to see that from the state level, they have also committed to assuring school districts have equitable systems and structures in place that are inclusive of all kids and all programs. Every child who wants to attend an AP class should be able to do that. Every child who wants to be AP or wants to go to the IB program should be able to do that. It is our challenge, though, to give them the support to be there. So equity, assuring that all kids are exposed to the very best practices is where my lens will be around that. And this slide is to show you it's coming from the state as a charge. As of April 2021, they have put a stake in the ground to say that they're promoting equity and diversity in a civics course on the pathway to graduation. So I thought that was very interesting, and I put that in to support what I was saying. So that's my opening. That's who I am. That's how I'm going to approach the work. This is what I believe in. This is what I know works, and this is what we will be doing. Moving into the second thing I mentioned was the reopening plan. Get there. So again, these are just some preliminary comments as I was brainstorming myself about what we realized from a pandemic in New York, in California, all across the nation. We have realized that the school closures have just changed us, it's just changed the landscape of public education. It's changed us. Our teachers, none of us, I think on this stage, will ever be the same. I know I won't. And so we have to change what we do. We have to reimagine. There is no possible way we can go back to traditional in-person and leave all this behind. We've learned so much. So my challenge and my push would be, how can we keep some pieces of this, capitalize on it, and even become better? So from the pandemic, we've learned a lot. We've realized that. I don't know, I observed that families who never desired to learn remotely now love it. Some want to remain online. We have to, as educators, address that. We must be responsive to that. While some of our students and parents could not wait to return to traditional, others wanted to stay at home when we returned back and came back in as hybrid during the April months. For some of our families with children with really severe illnesses, remote was better matched to their learning style. We can't throw that away. That's something we need to reimagine and build upon as we move into the fall of 2021. And while there were many challenges, online instruction presented so many opportunities, so many innovations. I was talking to someone today around the Google platform and how it was handled here, how teachers rose to that occasion, how their skill set was just a phenomenal, how they embraced this remote learning. So among those challenges, we did prevail. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get out of it? I did. Hold on. How do I get back? I hit the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I just clicked. I was right here. On this slide.
On this one?
Mm-hmm. Right here.
This one?
Mm-hmm. Make it. Slideshow. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm so sorry. We also realized from COVID that we've, like I said, changed. I did this slide. go to observations, we observed that. We came away from the COVID very proud. I know I did, and I know you were, because we were resilient. We stepped away and embraced the challenge. We maintained that continuity to the best extent possible. We did not waver in our commitment. We remained passionate. So here are some of the summary changes in the reopening plan that is posted on the website. I will check to make sure it's there. I've seen it, but I'll find out from where to let you know where you can find it. Dr. Reynolds was, prior to leaving, was gracious to make sure these changes were in the plan. Again, these are preliminary changes. They can change again. So right now, the plan has been revised just to be updated with these changes. And the guidance we received from New York State Department said, just take your existing plan, do not reinvent the wheel, just make sure your plan is aligned with these updates, and wait on us to continue to give you more changes. So to it's a revolving document, it's fluid, it continues to grow. So we received that guidance June 9th, that came from the State Department, and it pretty much did what we already have in our plan. It was revised to emphasize the COVID-19 prevention and operational strategies for the safe delivery of in-person instruction. Again, as you did in New York, looking at 2 data points, the level of transmission and the percentage of positivity rate. That measure will continue as we move into the next year in terms of using those data points to determine if we're going to move to a phased approach, a hybrid approach, go complete remote. We're opening school full in person, but the guidance stipulates that those 2 measures will still be used to help guide districts to move to different. Too close? Okay. Because we know the higher level of transmission in the community, the more likely it may come into our schools. So we will continue to look at those 2 measures. That's nothing new, but it was updated to just kind of give us this information to say, keep this in your plan, we're going to do that. And when those 2 data points intersect, and it requires us to move to another method, we will then do that. We'll be prepared to go back to cohorting, grouping kids, so that we have the space requirements met. But right now, all kids will be in person. And this is how the level of transmission looks. I just put it in here to let you know. In the guidance, this is the determination that will be used to determine when we have to move to a hybrid. There are 3 levels, blue, yellow, and red. It gives you the number of cases of transmission, and then behind that, it gives you the positivity. It gives you the positivity rate right below. So for example, if the low transmission rate is between 0 to 9 persons per 100,000 per 7 days, then it tells you that the percentage of positive rate less than 5%, then we would not probably we will remain open. So you read it like that. So this is the ranges we will use. It did, in the guidance, it did include just a description of when these transmission rates happen, blue, yellow, green, orange. It gives schools direction on the distancing. This is new. The guidance has been updated to decrease the distancing from 6 feet to 3. And you can see across the board, whether we're low, yellow, blue, yellow, or red, 3 feet is the level of distancing this guidance has permitted school districts to plan around. Except in sports, we know sports is hard to do that because of that close proximity. To the best extent possible, they're asking sports teams to try to keep kids further apart, at least back to the 6 feet. But overall, 6 feet distancing is what the guidance is saying. We can now update our plan to include. Oh, I did it again. Oh. I did it again. I'm so sorry. Ivy. Some more summary of the changes. They stipulated that closing schools is the last option. So that was made clear to us openly in our meetings today. And the first to reopen, once, if we have a high transmission and the city shuts down, schools will be the first that will reopen over businesses. They're stressing we want schools open. So that was made clear in the guidance, that we must prioritize in-person instruction over activities. That's the priority, that, you know, the lower the susceptibility of the incidence among younger children, we know there is a lower among elementary kids, and that we must, again, provide for those families with students at risk. The key takeaways were that students benefit from in-person learning. No one in this room will disagree with that. We know kids learn better when they're in school. And so this guidance stipulating you cannot close ultimately, if you do, you're going to be the first, is to say we want in-person learning. So we heard this loud and clear. We were sure that happens. They are, in the new guidance, they're encouraging schools to encourage persons to get vaccinated. Some schools are even going to become sites. We won't be doing that in this district, but they want more vaccinated. We know students now 12 and older can be. In the fall, they're going to have vaccinations available for students 12 and under. And they're stressing to schools to really sell it, to really push it, and even becoming sites where you even screen and do COVID testing if that will help. That's just as a suggestion in the guidance. It really talks strong about the mask. That is a big issue, that they still must be worn in the buildings at all times, you know, and that all students, all teachers and staff on buses, they can take their mask off when they're eating, of course, in physical education. And even in our plan, we have built in some breaks during the day where kids can take off when they're going, say, lining up to get water, of course, get some air. But masks, definitely, in this is stipulated that we must continue to wear them in offices as well as in our schools. Almost. Another takeaway is that if you're sick, stay home. Do not come to school if you're sick. And that is just anything. Don't come to school. There's really having told superintendents to really drive that home so that we just don't have any kind of risk of transmission. And they said layer your prevention strategies, which we do. We have masks, we have physical distancing, we have many things happening, cleaning every day, hand washing every day. Make sure those layered strategies all happen at the same time, all the time. And the last one is that they're recommending that we, the 3 feet distancing, and that we do more with you know, our ventilation, continue to improve. Things that are already in our plan, they're stressing we just try to up the ante anywhere we can improve it to do it. So those are the updates from the guidance we received. We're waiting on the later guidance. We will update the plan then, and then I plan to meet with Dr. Reynolds tomorrow and around this work and get some more information about what has been done. And there will be some next steps coming out there that I will let you know. I wanted to get into the next piece of the ESSER funds. This is the new money that we receive. I put this chart together to kind of to show you the overlap of the funding. Beginning in March 2020, ESSER number 1 was the CARES Act. That money, you can see, is spanned over to year 2023. Then right over top of that became ESSER Fund number 2. That expands now to 2024. And the new bucket is called ESSER Fund 3, which we have till 2025 to spend. With these dollars, we can spend money on things we already pre-awarded or pre-spent on. They give us stipulations, no stipulations to that. So if we need more screening materials, more cleaning materials, we can always continue to buy from either of these buckets. Moving to this one is the one I want to share more with you, because this is the last bucket we have not gotten yet. We will be getting as a district $2 million. It has not arrived yet. Once it does come in, Lisa Raymond and I will go in and create the sub-grant for how we plan to use the funds. And this information I will use, getting input from the Board of Trustees, district people, senior staff, to find out where we want to put these dollars. But here are some of the places and things that we have been told we can use these dollars on. And I'm sharing this because I remember the reorg meeting, there was a question about these funds and what we can do. So certainly we can use it to repair facilities, to reduce the transmission of exposure, so those dollars can be used for that. Of course, academic and social emotional needs is still a need. Training, professional development for teachers. We can improve our indoor air quality. Planning for activities for the closures if we do have them based on transmission. You know, meals, making sure kids still eat, get the materials they need, technology, online learning, all the things we did before, we can use these dollars for. Also, purchasing any additional technology we need, mental health services, summer school. So funds, we will have funds next year for summer school, as well as after-school programs this year. Other activities that are necessary to just maintain the operation and opportunity is the continuity of services. We know there's a learning gap. We know there's learning loss. Our kids lost a year. The way we will approach it, we're going to be looking to find an after-school program or provide one. But the instruction during the day, kids are going to start learning third grade standards. If I'm a third grade student, they will learn third grade standards. My approach to that is to fold in what was second grade standards when they were not here into those third grade standards where they're high yield and we can teach one and hit several. Because we can't not teach the year they're in, because they are still expected to know and learn the skills provided for the standards of the grade they're in. So we can't go back and not teach teach the standards they've missed. We must fold them in the current standards. And if you've read the standards, they do overlap. They just increase by grade level. So we will look at that closer to see where we can kind of embed that. But we will be approaching full person learning with grade level content day one on level where students are, and build in support programs after school and others to help bridge that gap. I also will be looking at that delivery of instruction to see what is done during the day, so there's time during the day that kids can get more intervention during the actual school day by their classroom teacher. So that's my next steps is to, and this is begin with the Board of Trustees and senior staff to decide how we want to use these funds. And once we do, then I'll go in and create the sub-grant application and submit it to the state. This must be, and that will then get us going. We have not gotten a deadline date for these funds because we haven't gotten the funds yet. But that's the process for that. So we're going to start planning how we want to use it, so when I get it, we can go in and create it and definitely get the plan in on time. The next piece is my first step for 100 days, my entry plan briefly. There were a lot of questions I heard about what it is. I just want you to know it's my plan I submitted to the Board of Trustees that defines, outlines, and details my first 100 days in this position. So what it does, it will help me acknowledge the great things already happening in the district. It's going to help me assess the current state of the district, this plan. It's going to help me with some activities I plan to put in place to engage in focus areas to find out in these broad areas where are the concerns. And then it's going to, with that information, I will be collecting a lot of qualitative, quantitative advice, recommendations from you, from everyone in this room. Everyone has a voice in this plan, and that information helps form the formation of our new strategic plan that expired. Without a plan, we have no accountability. Without a plan, we have no direction. I could write a plan today, but it will be my plan, it will sit on the desk. No one would, this plan must be all-encompassing, we all must be involved, you must give me feedback, you must be involved, and my entry plan is that process to gather that data to help inform the foundation of what our focus areas should be, and then flesh out those focus areas into our specific activities we're going to be doing. So that's the purpose. It's a 100-day plan to help with my transition. It's going to help me build relationships, because part of this plan, I will be meeting one-on-one with many, many people, as well as holding some focus groups that I will be sharing with the Board of Trustees and soliciting their support to help facilitate some of those. Every voice will be heard. There will be a voice session or a session with teachers, with students, with parents, community stakeholders, with the board, one-on-ones with different individuals. It's a comprehensive approach. It's not, by November, I will hope to be done, have enough data to be able to come back with you with this is what I heard, and then we begin to talk about what those focus areas, looking at the trends that will surface, that will form our focus areas for the next 5 years that will be built in that strategic plan. And that plan becomes an accountability piece from me to the board. It's something the board will use and can use to evaluate my performance. It's just one piece, but it's an accountability measure. Did I do it? And so it's something that you will hold me accountable for. There are other people in the plan who also will be held accountable for doing certain things. but it's a measure of accountability, and the strategic plan becomes that document that's the measure of accountability for our school district. And the outcomes will be here. I just shared all of that. I won't go over that again. And the next steps is to share this plan with the board more in detail, get their feedback, work with them, because there's some pieces I would like their input on, and basically start the one-on-one and focus groups, looking and listening, finding out what's going well, what needs to be improved, and how would you recommend it. And my very last piece is just to show you my schedule. I've had 2 luncheons this week with other superintendents in the area. I too must grow, and these organizations are a collaborative and help other superintendents work together, become very good or better at what they do. And I'm just getting a rhythm for the district, the operational day-to-day, how does it go, what happens? I'm checking for critical needs and issues that must be addressed right now, those early wins that we can mitigate right away. Familiarizing myself with the buildings when I can get into them, and just assuring the safety regulations for our health and safety plan and our reopening plan are in place. And I'm also and I gave you some timeline, going to be holding meetings with the senior leadership, walking through the buildings. I'm going to assure we're ready to open school with materials, assure that we have our staffing and that we have our teacher induction program ready for our new teachers, ensure that our bus drivers are ready, and just all those logistical stuff is what I'm going to be engaging in this month and next month. And that's my opening. And as I close, I did find this quote around that says, Janus, the Roman god of doorways, reminds us of the importance to see the past and look forward to the future. Never has it been more important than, as I said, to now leave the past and let's look to the future. We need to heal on more than one level. From the pandemic, and for many of us, some of us experienced that more personally than others. I know I did. And we all are still healing from that, but we need to heal and move forward. The past is the past. I don't live in the past, I live in the present. I'm asking everyone who's listening to the sound of my voice and in the audience, walk with me, be with me, let's come together and rebuild, recover, renew, and reimagine the great world-class district of Greenburgh Central together as we move ahead. I thank you very much for giving me that time.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I'm very thoughtful, thought out, and I appreciate your transparency on that. So I'm going to move forward in our agenda. Thank you for a very thorough report. Appreciate that. So the next thing on our agenda is an anticipated adjournment to executive session. However, I'm going to ask the board for some assistance here. We do have on our agenda 2 instructional personnel items, and we ask that our instructional personnel candidates do present themselves to the community to say hello, and so that the public, the board, other staff members in other schools know who we're hiring. And we do have them here this evening, they're here now. I would hate to adjourn to executive session and not give them a chance to say hello and have them sit and wait in our hot auditorium the entire time. So with the board's permission, I would like to hear from our 2 candidates tonight, if possible. Does anyone have any objection to that? I'd like to hear any feedback. No? Okay. So if possible.
I think David has a question.
Yes, Trustee Warner?
Sure. Could we pass the resolutions first, and then if it's looking the resolution, then we'll
I need a motion.
yeah, the numbers of the letter.
That would be B1, and I believe, excuse me, I'm sorry. That would be B3 and B4. I can hear you, Trustee Warner. I don't know if the public can hear you.
I move that we pass items B3 and B4.
I heard it move. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, so
had discussion, but you said B3 and B4? Is that what you said? Because I'm looking, unless I'm wrong, B1 and B2. Instructional or is it something different? I'm sorry, B as in boy. 3, which is Ashley Milan. Is that the teacher that's here? Yes, okay, great. And B4 is Kathleen Rosario. Okay, great. And those are the two resolutions that trustee want to move to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any more discussion at all? I don't know if B5, Amanda Vasa is here as well.
I just want to ask about the
No? Okay, so just B3 and B4, it's been properly moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome to Greenberg. I don't know if it's possible for our new teaching staff, Ashley Milan, to get a microphone so that she can address the public and board, please. Good evening, Ms. Milan, and for those of you that don't have an agenda, Ms. Milan is a teacher that will be assigned to E.F. Jackson Elementary School for the 2021-22 school year, replacing a retired teacher. Welcome, Ms. Milan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. I'm a social worker, a proud social worker coming to ESSER.
Thank you for clarifying from a fellow social worker. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm coming from Mount Vernon School District. Welcome to the new friends I met from Mount Vernon too, so we're both very excited. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. And this is Ms. Rosario.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to become part of Greenberg. I am coming from Mount Vernon as a school counselor for the K-8. So it's a big transition for me to become a high school counselor, but I'm very excited and eager to work with the community and the students and their parents. Thank you once again.
Great, thank you. Nice to meet you, Ms. Rosario. And just for clarification, Ms. Rosario will be assigned to Woodlandsville High School for the 21-22 school year, replacing our guidance counselor who did pass away. So you're filling big shoes. Welcome. Thank you so much, board, for the diversion from our usual agenda. And now we're going to ask for a motion to adjourn to exec session, please. So there's a motion. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person being considered for board action this evening. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm calling the meeting back to order. It's 9:19 PM. Thank you to everyone for your patience. I just got to get my agenda out. We are now on instructional personnel items. And can I please have a motion?
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening, with the exception of items B3 and B4, which have already been approved.
I second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Motion carried. Let's move on to Section C, personnel non-instructional items. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Section D, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening, with the exception of D5.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion on D5? Can I get a motion to accept D5?
Aren't we tabling it?
I move that we accept item D5, curriculum contract.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, trustee Dragic?
So I would like to table this item until Dr. Iverson has had a chance to evaluate the effectiveness of this particular, I guess you would call it program or hire. And I would like her to come back with a recommendation to the board, either to continue with this particular person or perhaps to find a different solution for providing this particular service to our students.
Okay, trustees, with D5, we're talking about $10,621.06 that was used in the 2021 school year, with a resolution not to exceed $21,150 this year. What say you?
I second the motion.
Well,
Table.
you would have to rescind, Ivy, for clarity. Would Mr. Warner have to rescind his original motion?
I rescind.
And is the motion then to table D5? Ivy? Okay, so are you making a motion,
I make
trustee
a motion
Dragic?
to table D5.
I second. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor to table D5?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed in tabling D5? Any abstentions? Motion carried. D5 is now tabled. Let's move on to closing items. E. We have, a discussion on our committee assignments, correct?
I think you have board retreat
I'm
location
sorry,
first.
thank you. D2, I missed that line, is board retreat location. So at the last meeting, we discussed having our board retreat. We agreed to set the board retreat for August 11th at 5:30 p.m. That's a Wednesday, 5:30 to 9 p.m. At that retreat, we're supposed to have team building exercises and conversation training, and we're also supposed to have a training with our attorneys, Jospin Schlesinger, on various topics that are essential for board business to be conducted. One of our trustees offered having her home residence as a location for the retreat. We need to have a discussion around that. Is that what everyone would like to do? What say you?
I have a clarifying question.
Sure, Trustee Pineda.
Are we 100% sure we will not have any business discussion during that time?
The retreat agenda, as I heard you all would like, is team building and legal training. I don't think that involves business, but it's up to the board.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Right, so I think that as long as the agenda is, remains what you just said, I think that I would really love to welcome the entire board and Dr. Iverson to my home. It's going to be, it's close by, it's going to be cheaper, much more pleasant and intimate. There's definitely space to accommodate all of us. If we are going to do business, then we might want to consider a different location. But as long as we're not, and I don't personally think we should do business for the retreat, I just want to, again, extend my invitation to everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Dragic. Trustee Valen?
If we anticipate that there will be business, such as approving any new hires, which may or may not be in track, are we considering an alternate date for a special meeting in which those business items could be covered? Or
Yeah.
will we run the risk of having items added at the last minute to our retreat agenda?
Yes, thank you for clarity, Trustee Valen. So today, we had an email from our district clerk that there will be a special meeting the day after, which is August 12th. We took a poll of the board members. There was one board member that did have a conflict, and she was willing to change that. So August 11th is our retreat from 5:30 to 9, and August 12th will be a special meeting. We need to set the time for that. Trustee Thomas.
Is it possible that we could, so if we have, since we have the special meeting on the 12th, that we can move the legal discussions to the 12th as well, so that we can focus specifically on the board retreat and team bonding on the 11th?
What say the rest of the board?
I
Well,
would ask
isn't the legal
if we-
discussion part of the team building? I don't,
So the legal training is going to be done by Jasmine Schlesinger. The
Right.
team building will be done by BOCES. So it's two different people. Trustee Pineda, what were you saying?
Do we know if legal's even available to have that conversation on the 12th if we want to move it? I don't know if they're available.
I did not check with legal about their
So
availability.
we would
on
have to
12th.
know that.
Yes. So we will consider that as well. So we'll talk with legal. I personally do think that if we have the 3.5 hour, is it right? 3.5 hour training, then maybe we could do 2 hours of team building and 1.5 hours of legal training. But if we move it to the special meeting, we have business to do that night. And I believe the special meeting, we're definitely going to talk about Dr. Iverson's entry plan. I don't know if we're going to run out of time, because that legal training is going to be at least 1.5 hour chunk of time. Okay, back to the location conversation. We did get some quotes here. If you look in your papers, our district clerk did compile some information for us. In addition to what's here, she did check out Bonamici, which is here in Hartsdale, and they're willing to give their meeting room for $360. I'm sorry, Ivy, does that include dinner or anything like that? Yes?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so their dinner would include $360. And the meeting area?
Yes.
Okay, great,
It's
thank
all
you.
inclusive of dinner, beverages, and the meeting room.
Okay, great, thank you.
The same with the other restaurant that I have listed there.
Okay, thank you. We also have on here that the NISBA training is $2,000 for 2 to 4 hours, plus any travel expenses for the facilitator. BOCES, the BOCES training is no charge. So that's why I assumed we would go with the BOCES, but again, board, I would need to hear from you guys. Ms. Washington, do you want to give input on whether you would prefer NISBA or BOCES to do the training?
Did you state that BOCES was free?
It sure is.
Okay, so I think it's fiscally responsible to go with the program BOCES that at this time is not costing us any money.
Okay, great. Mr. Pineda?
I second that.
Mr. Warner?
BOCES. I believe Dr. Coles is sitting in the audience.
He is. Trustee Valen?
BOCES.
And Trustee Thomas?
BOCES.
And Trustee Dragic?
BOCES.
Okay. So we have Dr. Coles, excuse me, is in our audience. I don't know if you want to wave to everyone. So Dr. Coles is the superintendent at the Southern Westchester BOCES, and he came here to hear about our retreat and any ideas that we would like for training. So thank you, Dr. Coles, for your presence. So let's get back to the meeting location. Yes, Trustee Valen.
Of the locations besides Dr. Dragic's house, I'm curious, the most fiscally responsible one that seems to have a meeting room would be Bonamici, but I don't know the size of the room and if it could accommodate 10 plus our facilitators of the training. So unless we have clarity on the space issue, maybe we should consider more heartily Dr. Dragic's offer.
Ivy, did they say anything about their spacing at all?
When I requested quotes, I told them it was for a meeting with 10 attendees to have presentations. It was a working dinner with presentations, and I reached out to locations that had private meeting rooms. I didn't ask for their dimensions. So it would be, tables, chairs with, individual sit-down meals.
Madam President, just a point of interest, I think everyone needs to speak loudly in their microphone, because last time we had a board meeting, there were community members stating that they could not hear us. So just everybody kind of remember that as you're speaking, so they can hear.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. I just need to recognize you, but I 100% agree. I cannot hear everyone. I don't know if it's because of these barriers or what is happening, but thank you very much, Trustee Washington. I hope you can hear me. I saw Trustee Thomas's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of space, I love the space and what we're going to be doing. I love the idea of, home cooked meal. Tanya has stated that she would do some cooking, and I've let the community know I'm kind of mean in the kitchen, and I relish the opportunity to show you guys.
Thank you for sharing that, Trustee Thomas. Anyone else have any feedback? I will say I am not okay with going to Trustee Dragic's house for the retreat. I would love to have a social gathering, not business related, for the board at Trustee Dragic's house. I think that's amazing, but I think the retreat, although we will not do business, I do think it is a formal event of the board, and I do think that we need to keep it formal. So that's why I wanted to get more information, but it sounds like I'm in the minority. I have not heard from Trustee Warner or Pineda or Washington. Can you please share your thoughts?
I guess I'll go next. I'm fine with going to Trustee Dragic's house. I'm fine with that.
Washington, Warner?
I have no issue with going to Trustee Dragic's house. We'll try it.
Sorry, what did you say?
We'll try it.
Okay, and Trustee Washington?
We can try it.
Okay, great. So now that I lost that one.
Okay.
But I do want to ask about food. I don't think it's okay that you just cook for everyone. So what ideas do people have as far as food or catering for the retreat at Trustee Dragic's house?
Madam President, can you please recognize me?
Sorry, yes, trustee Washington.
No, you're not, no. So Bonamici's, I believe, the owner was a Woodlands High School graduate. So, if Ivy can confirm that, if we are able to use them for catering, that would be, it's a small business, one, and the person was a graduate. So then, if Trustee Dragic would like to cook something in addition to the actual catered meal, that might be, something that she can do. But I believe we can do some type of catering through Bonamici's, or I think the other list was Rini's. And the reason why I'm supporting that is because they're a small business.
Okay, anyone else have any feedback?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Dragic?
So I think that, thanks, Kiana, for offering that, and I think that that's a fine idea. I would definitely, nonetheless, make something, and I would also say that we could also just do a potluck. Maybe, everyone could bring a little something, and we could maybe order something as well. So,
Does anyone else have any feedback? Ivy, is it possible to get a catering information from Bonamici and present that to the board so that we could have that information?
Yes, I can obtain the information. Did you want it from Rini's as well?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Did you want it from Rini's as well?
I don't understand.
She said Rini's, would you like an estimate from Bonamici's and Rini's, the restaurant in Elmsford? She said, would you like it from both of them?
Sure, yes, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, board. The next discussion is committee assignments. I'm going to add to that we also have the committee assignments and building liaisons. So I sent you all a spreadsheet. Hopefully you looked at it. And that,
We don't have a copy, right?
we don't have a copy of it. It was a compilation of, it's in your email, it was a compilation of the committees that you volunteered to be on, as well as the buildings that you volunteered to liaison. And just for the public information, ECP has one board trustee liaison, Lee F. Jackson has one, Highview has one, RJ Bailey has two, and Woodlands Middle High School has two. I asked the board to rank them in order, first, second, and third. The board members do not always follow directions. I got different amounts here, but it is very clear that we had two people choose ECP as their first building they'd like to liaise, one that had ECP as their second, three people that had Lee F. Jackson as their second, one person that had Highview as their second, two people that had Highview as their third, two people that had RJ Bailey as their first, one as their second, one as their third, one as their fourth, three people that had Woodlands Middle High School as their first, one as their fifth, and one as their third. So let's have a discussion. Where would people, is there any building that a trustee feels like they must be a liaison in?
Yes.
Okay, I hear trustee Dragic.
I would like Woodlands High School, Middle High School, please.
So trustee Dragic, you chose Woodlands Middle High School first, and you chose RJ Bailey second. You did not give me a third. So I hear trustee Dragic wants Woodlands High School as their first. I asked for Woodlands as my first, and trustee Thomas asked for Woodlands as the first. Trustee Valen, you asked for it as your fifth. Are you
Just to
stepping?
clarify, I said any of the elementaries would be my first, no favorites, and,
I need three. Can you give me three?
okay, first, ECP Jackson Highview.
Okay, in that order.
No,
No.
I am ceding to whoever has a first out of those, I will take what's left.
Okay, so you don't have a preference on-
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so that's a little bit different than what I asked for or what I have. So I'm sorry for that confusion. So we also have David Warner that had Woodlands Middle High School as your third. Are you willing to concede that?
I'm willing to concede that if I get something else.
Okay. All right, thank
Yes.
you. So now it's between trustee Dragic, Jamal Thomas, and myself for Woodlands Middle High School. Mr. Thomas, you also had Leah Jackson as your second and Highview as your third. Are you willing to concede?
So, just so we're clear, there's 7 board members, but there's not 7 schools. So there's just one individual who becomes for each school? Is that how it works?
So there's 2 trustees that liaison at Woodlands Middle High School and 2 trustees that liaison on R.J. Bailey.
Got it. I would prefer Woodlands Middle High School, but if somebody feels uber strongly, then I would concede.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. R.J. Bailey, we have first choice Ashley Pineda and David Warner as your first choices. Second choice, Tanya Dragic. You had second choice. I had Bailey as my third. Chris Vallon clarified that that is not in the running. So I'm willing to concede Bailey. Ashley and David, are those your,
Good. Let's
You would like
I'll
that?
take Bailey. Will you take Bailey, Ashley?
I could take it, yeah.
Okay, we will take Bailey.
okay, well, that was kind of easy. All right, so let's move down to Highview. So trustee Warner, I'm taking you out of Highview. It's between trustee Thomas and trustee Vallon, who both of those were your third choices, or trustee Vallon didn't have one weight or the other. Trustee Thomas, are you willing to do Highview, being that Woodlands is contested? Or do you want to have trustee Vallon take Highview? Did you have a comment, trustee Vallon?
I was going to suggest that you go back to ECP, since there are a few people who Ms. Washington had that as her first choice, and someone else had it as their second.
I can't understand the word
You're starting with a third, okay. No, I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Two tied threes.
So trustee Thomas, did you want to concede to trustee Vallon?
But trustee Vallon,
She doesn't feel strongly about it, one way or the other.
the only one I feel strongly about is Woodlands Middle, High School. So
Okay, so we're going to, trustee Vallon then can take Highview. For Leah Jackson, we had trustee Thomas, trustee Vallon's out, and trustee Washington with your second choice for Leah Jackson. Trustee Washington, you also have ECP, so it looks like you have your pick of the litter. What would you like?
I will take ECP.
So trustee Washington prefers ECP. That leaves trustee Thomas as at Jackson with your second choice. Trustee Dragic nor myself had Jackson listed. We're at a stalemate. What do people want to do?
What's the stalemate?
The stalemate is, it looks like 3 trustees chose Woodlands Middle High School as their primary choice for liaisoning, and Leah Jackson does not have a liaison.
if I don't know if we can extend this horse trading into the committee, but you know what, Leah Jackson is fine for me.
Did you say Leah Jackson is fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so trustee Thomas is going to be the Lee F. Jackson liaison. Trustee Dragic and myself will be the Woodlands Middle High School liaison. I would welcome any trustee to speak on this. Yes, trustee Vallon.
Just food for thought. I know that other districts change their building liaisons throughout the year, whether quarterly or with the marking periods. May I recommend that we consider changing mid-year so that we have opportunities to get to know the other schools instead of waiting year after year?
I absolutely love that idea. Thank you for that suggestion. What do the rest of the trustees think? What I heard her say was that other boards change liaisons, either mid-year or quarterly, so that everyone has an opportunity to change schools and have familiarity with more than one building. I think that's a wonderful idea. Trustee Werner.
In past years, we've had a mid-year retreat. So if we have a mid-year retreat, we can ask people if they'd like to switch chairs.
Trustee Warner suggested a mid-year retreat. Trustee Pineda?
I like that idea.
Trustee Washington?
Can you repeat yourself, Trustee Warner?
In the past, we've had a summer retreat and a winter retreat of the board. So if we have a winter retreat in which we kind of look at our progress over the first half of the school year, we can make that an opportunity to see if people want to trade places in terms of liaisons.
I agree.
Nice. Trustee Dragic?
I like that, yeah.
And lastly, Trustee Thomas?
I like the idea as well.
Awesome. Great idea, Trustee Allen. I just wanted to share with the board that in the past, as a liaison, I have emailed my building principal, said, hey, I'm your liaison. Please let me know of any events you're having, activities. I'd like to, look at my calendar, see if I can attend. I'd like to give information back to the board for anything that you're doing that, the board can be apprised of. I don't know, Trustee Warner, if you want to share any of your experience as a liaison.
I did a lot of, back when I was a liaison to Woodlands, I believe I was asked to sometimes speak for various events, including what am I thinking of? Dads Bring Your Kids to School. And so Dads Bring Your Fathers to School Day, we had like a STEAM get together in which we actually went through basically what was happening in all our STEAM programs, and then we did an exercise in creative learning in which you basically competed to build a tower and see whose tower worked best and all that sort of thing. So there were events like that, and then there were speeches for different items. The Honor Society, I would talk at that, and then in other cases, I just showed up for the holiday programs, and if there was something special like a seminar on how IB was developing or some such thing, then we would be invited to things like that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Warner.
I also sometimes at other schools I would read. There'd be a day where you'd read to the children. And that was always kind of a good highlight. And I would not be the only adult. There'd be a whole bunch of people doing that. So, for example, you also had a Highview Authors Night. You'd go to that. You'd have a talent show. You'd go to that. And so you get to know the kids as you moved along through the year. And then when you got to the end, there'd be a clap out or a moving up ceremony, and you would participate in that as well. Of course, if we switch at the midway point, that might not be quite the same, but, if you get the second half of the year, go for it.
Thank you so much, Trustee Warner. I'm going to move on to committees unless anyone feels the need to speak. Okay. With committees, this was also an interesting process. I asked for 3 committees, at least 3, for everyone to be on. I did not get 3 from everyone, and I got even more from some, but we do have some conflicts here. I will start with the committees that do not have conflicts. The Audit Committee right now is comprised of myself and Trustee Vallon. Is there anyone else who would like to be on the Audit Committee? Okay, I will move forward to Governance and Policy Committee. There's 3 trustees there. That's perfect. It's myself, Trustee Pineda, and Trustee Vallon. So that committee is kind of set, no problem. Lastly, we have Governmental Relations Committee, which last year operated as an ad hoc committee. I put it on there just in case we end up making it not ad hoc committee, or if we make it not a committee of the board. And I volunteered to be on that, as well as Trustee Pineda. Okay, now there's quite a few conflicts. Our Education and Wellness Committee has 4 trustees that would like to serve. That's Trustee Dragic, Trustee Thomas, Trustee Valen, and Trustee Washington. Is there anyone who's willing to concede this position?
I'm willing to, Chris Valen,
Trustee Valen?
I'm willing to come off that committee.
Thank you for being flexible. Trustee Valen's willing to come off of Education and Wellness, so we have Trustee Dragic, Trustee Thomas, and Trustee Washington as members of the Education and Wellness Committee. Next committee with some conflicts are Safety and Technology. We have Trustee Dragic, Trustee Pineda, Trustee Valen, and Trustee Werner that want to be on that committee. Is anyone willing to concede?
I'm willing to get off of that one.
Thank you for being flexible, Trustee Dragic. So the final members of the Safety and Technology will be Trustee Pineda, Trustee Valen, and Trustee Werner. Thank you for that. Next committee with conflicts are the Community Engagement and Communications Committee, CEC Committee. That has 5 people who want to be on that committee. That's Trustee Dragic, Trustee Thomas, Trustee Valen, Trustee Washington, and Werner. Are 2 of you willing to concede this committee?
Trustee Washington will concede that committee.
Okay, thank you so much for being flexible.
And Valen.
And Valen. So we have Trustee Dragic, Trustee Thomas, and Trustee Werner that remain on the CEC committee. Last and definitely not least is our Finance and Facilities Committee. We have 4 people who want to be on that committee. That's Trustee Dragic, Trustee Pineda, Trustee Valen, and Trustee Werner. Is anyone willing to concede this committee?
So I have a question.
I hear a question. Trustee Dragic?
Yeah, so, I could concede, but then I will be
We
on
can't
2
hear you.
committees, so I'm just thinking of a 3rd one, and that's why I'm kind of segueing into this discussion about the...
Trustee Dragic, we're having difficulty hearing you. Can you take your mask down and
Yes,
speak?
Yes, can you hear me now? Okay, so, I'm just wondering what we are actually going to do about the Governmental Relations Committee, because we kind of made it into an ad hoc, partly maybe it was because of the makeup of the board last year. So I'm just wondering if this year we may want to consider reinstating it as a full committee, especially with the new superintendent. It might be helpful for her to, you know, sort of get to know our town government, and also start reaching back out to others higher up for aid. So I'm just wondering if we are actually thinking of making this into a full committee. That's
So I hear a recommendation to make the Governmental Relations Committee no longer ad hoc, no longer a committee of the board, but an actual reinstated committee. Any trustees have an opinion about that?
I second that.
Okay, Trustee Pineda agrees and seconds. Anyone else? Any objections to this? Okay, so far we have myself and Ashley Pineda who volunteered to be on that committee. Is there any other trustees who would like to serve on that committee?
Yes, so I'm now going to go back to, I'm willing to take my name off of the Finance and Facilities, and I would like to serve on the Governmental Relations Committee.
Got it. Finance Facilities is going to be Trustee Pineda, Trustee Valen, and Trustee Werner. All right, that looks like that is pretty set, fairly easy. You got everything, Ivy?
Yes, I do.
Oh, wonderful.
And you'll receive a copy of it so you can correct anything I may have mistakenly written down, but I think I have it all.
Thank you so much, Ivy. Okay, next on our agenda is item E4, discussion regarding the administration building and special district meeting. I'm sorry, yes, Ivy?
There were other types of liaisons that it's usually the president and vice president served as backup for NISBA and BOCES and Westchester Putnam School Board Association.
Thank you for clarifying. You said normally it's the president or vice president?
Historically, it's been the president with the vice president as backup, but it could be any board member.
Okay, does any board member want to serve as a NISBA liaison?
So what exactly does that entail? I mean, what are we supposed to?
There's a yearly meeting in which you are, you're a delegate. And there are, as an organization in NISBA, can you hear me? As an organization in NISBA, there are things that all of the school districts push for at the legislative level. And so what will happen is there's a subcommittee of NISBA that gets together, figured out a list of items for people to vote on. You review that list of items towards the end of the summer, and then you go to the NISBA convention, and you have a Saturday, you go to a bunch of seminars, and you have a Saturday morning vote. And you sit there with your ping pong paddle, and you debate, and you vote, and there are several hundred people in the room from all the different school districts that are members of NISBA, and you determine what positions the lobbyists for NISBA will take and push for at the legislative level. And it's quite interesting. And you do have the opportunity, if you want to bring that back to the board and ask their opinions as well.
Okay.
So trustees, I'm on a few committees, so I would love for anyone to volunteer who's not on a bunch of committees. I know Trustee Vallen's on quite a few committees. I see your name. I'm on quite a few. So if you have not so many board committees, please feel free to volunteer for NISBA, BOCES, or our Westchester Putnam School Board Association. I see Trustee Thomas.
I'll volunteer for NISBA.
For NISBA?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. BOCES and Westchester School Board.
I'll volunteer for BOCES.
Thank you. And I guess I'll do Westchester School Board Association as well, okay? You got that, Ivy?
So Tracy, I just want to say,
Yes.
if I'll be your
Stand-in for me
stand-in,
if
yeah,
needed.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, was that all of the liaisons, Ivy? Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the confusion. All right,
Trustee Mears?
on to E4.
Tracy?
Yes, I'm sorry, Trustee Valen?
Sorry, just a quick question about the committees again. Are only district committees required to have charges developed by the superintendent, or are all the committees required to wait for charges? Can you just briefly outline that process?
Committees of the district traditionally have been the committees that a set of charges is set up for from the, and how they will function. The board approves those charges. Committees of the board, no. The committees of the board set their own equivalent to charges.
So did everyone hear that? So Dr. Iverson, you will be charged with your central office administration with setting the charges for the district committees. And we could give you a list of which ones are district committees and which ones are the board committees.
That's towards the bottom of the table.
Yes.
And just as a follow-up, Trustee Maris, so just to clarify, because for the Finance and Facilities Committee, I know we've scheduled a walkthrough already. I think it's the 30th of the month. We don't need those charges before we actually have that walkthrough or have meetings to address the public's concerns about the facilities before the school start. Is that correct?
So you would essentially operate off of the charges that they were last year until new charges are given. Is there any other? I see Trustee Pineda.
Two points. First, I would recommend that the previous committee chairs take on at least organizing the first meeting of each committee so that we have a point person and comes up with a schedule, and then at that committee meeting, we can run an election, and whoever wants to be the committee chair can be the committee chair. So that's the first point. The second point being, we will be needing a list of administrative liaisons for each one of those committees from our superintendent when she has a moment, and then we'll bring them into the loop and start that conversation.
Thank you, Trustee Pineda. Are there any other trustees? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to E4, a discussion on the administration building and the special district meeting. I know our business official, Lisa, do you want to start that discussion, please?
For the special meeting?
I'm sorry, for the administration building monies and needing to have a special vote if we were to move the monies to a different fund?
Okay, so it is my recommendation, after speaking with our legal counsel, her name is Laura. She is a specialist in construction. We should really establish a capital reserve, and the way you do that is you have to present that to the taxpayers to establish the reserve. Then you would, along with that resolution, you'd ask the taxpayers to allow us to create this reserve and allow us to fund the reserve with excess fund balance and/or a budgeted amount every year not to exceed X number of millions of dollars over X number of years. And within that time period, you would have to do a referendum to start spending the money on whatever kind of capital project. If the taxpayers allow us to do that, then there would be another referendum asking that the money from the repair reserve fund be transferred to the capital reserve fund. And then that way, that money can be used on any capital project, because remember, a repair reserve fund can only be used for repairs. You can still keep the repair reserve fund open, and you could have monies in there, but I would make the money not as substantial in there as you would in the capital reserve, because that's where you would need the money to do any projects, building projects. And then when you would want to spend any of the money out of a capital reserve, you need another referendum, another proposition asking the taxpayers to take the money out of the capital reserve for capital construction phase 2, let's say, for this dollar amount, and then they would allow that, and then that goes to the capital fund to fund another project.
So trustees, so the issue, it's not before us, but the issue for discussion is whether or not we would hold a special vote by the public to approve a referendum. The vote is always in May. If we were to hold a special vote before May, it would cost, as the cost is broken down here, about $19,000. And we would address the issue that Ms. Raymond just brought up, which was creating a capital reserve fund to put the monies in to address the issues with our administration building. And Trustee Pineda has brought up before that we should have the opportunity to have a student on the board. That's also something that needs to be voted on by the public, so we would put that as well on the referendum to be voted upon. So what say you? What do you guys feel? Should we wait till May? I see Ms. Raymond's hand up. Please continue.
It would be my recommendation not to hold a special vote, but make this part of the May meeting. That way we can plan it properly. And if you remember, we had asked the taxpayers that any excess fund balance over the 4%, once our audit is done this year, would go to the repair reserve fund. So our audit is not going to be conducted until September. We hopefully will get the report by October, November. That has to go to the state. So I would hate to see us do a referendum and ask for the money that's currently in the repair reserve to go to a capital reserve, and then have to ask the taxpayers again for whatever that excess would be. So, and in the meantime, I don't think right now, aside from if you decide to continue to do the mansion roof, the money would just be sitting in account, where I don't see why it can't wait for the May vote, so we don't have to spend the extra money. Because right now, unfortunately, with the burst water pipes in the mansion. It has done a lot of damage, and I just got the proposal for the asbestos abatement, which is going to cost $78,000.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Is there, Trustee Warner?
Sure, question, $78,000, is that covered by the insurance?
Our insurance company is involved, yes. I'm not sure that they're going to cover the whole 78, though. We're still waiting to hear on that.
Trustee Dragic?
So I guess the question that I have is if we're going to wait until May, that means that this building continues to fall apart and is unusable for at least another year. We were supposed to start the roof work in 2020, right? And now...
Well, we would have to create this avenue to get the money out so we could do the roof, but I think if you did the roof, there's so much internal damage that you still couldn't move in there. Mr. Falcone, and I've shared pictures with Mr. Werner and I believe the rest of the board of the pipes that are rotting, and it's just a matter of time from the inspections that were done that people feel that there's going to be another water main or a water leak or break or something like that. There are sections of floors and roofs that have collapsed onto the floor below. There's a lot of internal work that needs to be done there before anybody could move back into that building.
So I have two additional questions. One is, why aren't they turning the water off?
That's a good question. I can find that out.
I mean, they should have basically when the building was closed down. I don't understand why the water is on and has been on. That's my first question. And then my second question is, I think that really at some point we're kind of going to have to bite the bullet and decide what we're doing about this building, because things are getting, it's getting put off, and it's accumulating damage, and, we're either going to have to fix it or I don't know what. I mean, David said that it's going to cost a huge amount of money even to tear. I mean, I would break my heart to tear it down, but those are essentially our two options at this point. So, I'm sorry, David, I saw that you had your hand up.
I saw Trustee Washington and then, yeah.
So I just want to just piggyback off what Dr. Dragic was saying. We have been speaking to the community about this building, I want to say for about 2 years. And Ms. Raymond, just to put it off until May, logically sounds good. But we need to really get this building together, and the fact that a trustee had to say, why hasn't the water been turned off, has kind of disturbed me, because we are paying someone who is the director of facilities. So I'm not saying the water is on. I just really, that shouldn't even have to be a question. Number two, if you can come up with a plan prior to May, it doesn't have to be September, but can it be December? Because if you're telling us that that's so much damage in that mansion, we should not lose that property at all due to human error. We should be figuring out a way to get our ducks in order, get the money, talk to the community, let them know what's happening, and get that building fixed. There's no way that we should even have discussion on the mansion being torn down. Not at all. So I just want to put that out there. I do agree with your logic with the May vote, but it's been too long. And we have to move forward. That is my opinion.
Can I see Trustee Warner, but can I just jump in before?
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry. My only concern with waiting until May, Ms. Raymond, I'm sorry, I need to see you, is the winter. If the roof has major issues, we already have internal water damage from pipes leaking because no one turned the water off. We've had torrential rains already. we're going to keep having rains, we're going to have winds, we're going to have a winter. What else is going to happen if we do not secure this building envelope? That is my concern. I'm willing, me personally, I'm willing to spend $19,000 to secure to move the monies to be able to secure the envelope. I'm very concerned. I do not think we should lose this building. We are looking for space. We have an administration in the high school. We have a early childhood program in an elementary school. We're squeezed everywhere. We have an entire beautiful building that is our logo. The mansion is our actual part of our logo, and we're going to lose this building because we didn't move in 2 years at least. So that's my concern. So I'll just say that. I'm sorry. Trustee Warner?
I would say that we just spent, over the past year during COVID, getting approval from NYSED to complete this roofing project. So we put significant effort into it already. The longer we wait, the more water comes down, the more damage happens. We need to get moving on this. I'm willing to spend a little bit of money for the vote. We already have the money sitting in the repair reserve fund to complete the repairs. I think we should go.
I need to hear from Trustee Thomas and Valen, please.
Ashley has his hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Trustee Pineda. I didn't see you.
No worries. I think more importantly, all valid points, I agree with all of them on some level. What I don't want is for us to approach this haphazardly. I think that we seriously need to have a long conversation about what our future plans for this building are. And we need to have that conversation as soon as possible. And once we've agreed on what we are doing with that building, I think our decision will be much easier to be made as to whether or not we're doing this special vote. Right now, personally, I like the building as well, but I'm sitting there and thinking, what are we going to do with it long term? Is it wise of us to put the money into this, or do we repurpose it for something else, or do we tear it down? I wouldn't want to tear it down, but we have to have that conversation as a board. And I don't think we've ever had that conversation in a long time, and I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
We do have an August 12th special meeting. I'd like to hear from Valen and Trustee Valen, Trustee Thomas, please.
So, ditto a lot of what Mr. Pineda said.
I can't understand you.
Ditto a lot of what Mr. Pineda said. I've been developing a long list of questions, and I don't have it on my laptop and my spreadsheets and all my doodles to go through a lot of detail. A couple high-level concerns. I agree, we need a plan. We have phase one happening. We have an energy performance contract that's out for bid or about to go out for bid. We have the mansion roof, which has been discussed for a couple of years. We have other repair projects that are happening now that were emergencies or things that had to happen, and come sooner off of the list. I don't know if some of the monies need to be moved sooner than May to actually pay for items on phase one, which will begin soon. I don't know if the roof will bump off part of phase one. I'm telling you a lot of what I don't know, a lot of what my questions are, but the summary is, I want to use our building condition survey as the framework for our priorities. What happens is we have emergency repairs. Those are emergencies and they need to be dealt with. But when people bring things up in meetings, things that need to be done, but I want us to have that overall framework of the BCS. Is that something that the architects have said is something that can wait till phase 3? Or are we just going to listen to the 3 loud voices that are talking about that particular item? I want to have that framework, which hopefully when the committee meets, we can go over and develop that framework. I also want to look at some of the things that are in the pipeline for this summer to see, are these actual repairs that need to be done because they're emergencies, or is this one of the I'd like to do this kind of items? And maybe, because we're talking about all these monies now, I need to outline my stuff. We need to have a meeting with the committee, and then yes, I think this needs to be discussed at the August 12th meeting. I don't have all my details here.
Okay, thank you. Really quickly, Trustee Warner, do you know where the mansion roof and envelopes fall in the phases?
I believe that we prioritized building envelopes over other items. So there was a giant list of $10 million, a wish list of things that they wanted to do to fix up the mansion, and that wasn't happening, right? So we went through that $10 million list. We looked at it actually as a board, and we ended up saying, no, but we'll fix the roof, okay? So we've gone down and prioritized our way down. The only thing that I see outstanding that is, from my perspective, and not everybody's perspective, not everyone agrees on this, that probably I would want to do before I would move people back in. I think the most likely thing to go after is mechanical ventilation. It appears now that the new thing is plumbing, and there were only a couple $100,000 worth of plumbing, if I remember correctly.
Thank you, Trustee Warner. We need to wrap this up, so I'm going to recognize Trustee Thomas and then Trustee Dragic.
I mean, it's tough for me, just I would really, like Ashley said, I'd like some clarity on what exactly the building is going to be utilized for, and how quickly we want it to utilize it for that purpose, before we can say whether we should wait till May or we should start now.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas. Trustee Dragic?
Yeah, so I just want to point out that we have had these discussions ad nauseum, right? We have gone through plans and phases, and we set aside the money, and we made the decision to fix the roof so that at least the building literally doesn't collapse one day. And I think that I agree that we need to figure out whether it's going to be an admin building, is it going to be an ECP building, is it going to be something other, but it is our real estate that we are responsible for. We've set the money aside, and now I really, to have yet another committee and another discussion and wait yet another year to fix it, it's just, I'm sorry, it's almost criminal at this point. It's completely negligent.
I see Ms. Raymond's hand.
If you want to hold a separate vote, I would ask that you let me plan it properly with Laura so that we cross our T's and dot our I's and we do everything correctly. And I would ask that you also wait until our audit is over and done so we can see how much excess over the 4% that we may have that will be in the repair reserve, so that when we pull the money out, it's all at one time.
When is that audit going to be done? Do you have any idea?
The audit is, we're slated for it to start at the beginning of September. But what I will do is I will call Scott Oling, who is our audit representative from the audit firm, and tell him what our plan is. This is what we're after, what we need to do, and I'm going to ask him if he can expedite our audit. First, I'll see if we could push it up maybe to August to get it started sooner than later. If he can't, then I'm going to ask him to please get all the work done, and I need to know approximately how, what kind of numbers are we talking about that are going to go to the repair reserve.
Ms. Raymond, how are you going to ensure that this building will be protected at most that we can? I mean, there is substantial water damage. We know the envelopes are not good. How are we knowing mold is not growing in there? Is there ventilation, windows opened?
So I asked Mr. Falcone about, are we airing out the building? Are the windows open? And we are not permitted to do any of that because there is asbestos. So there are no windows open at this time.
Oh my God. So do we have a schedule for the asbestos abatement?
Yes, we are, right now, the asbestos company had to file for permits with Westchester County. We're just waiting for those approvals to come back, and then the work can begin.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, we have to put this topic to bed. Any other trustees? No? All right. Thank you for the discussion, all. Next discussion, the Board of Education self-evaluation. Trustees, please look at the handout that our district clerk got for us. This is an evaluation based off of last school year. We obviously have 3 brand-new trustees. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reports. We have 2 trustees that did not submit any report. For the public, I will read as much as I can, and with consideration of the time. Under the vision, leadership, and accountability, the board collectively scored themselves at a 2.6. A 2.6 falls at the bottom of effective, I believe. Am I reading that correctly, Ivy? Under the second section, which is board governance and policy, the board scored itself at a 2.2, and a 2.2 falls in the developing range. Under the section of communication and community relations, the board scored itself at a 2.6. Again, the 2.6 is at the bottom of the effective range. In the section of fiscal resources, staff recruitment, and environment, the board scored itself at a 3.0. A 3.0 is in the middle of the effective range. Under the section of ethical leadership, the board scored itself at a 2.4. The 2.4 is at the very top of the developing range. And in the last section, which is meeting the board goals, the board scored itself at a 3.4, which is at the top of the effective range. Overall, I'm trying to see if there's some, there's 1, 2, 3 full front and back pages of comments. So I am not going to read all of the comments. Of course, this document can be foiled by anyone. But there's several comments as well that the board gave itself. Is there any feedback, any discussion from current board trustees regarding this evaluation? The board scored itself with 3 effectives and 2 developing. So board, please read this at your leisure. And obviously last year was a different year than this year, and hopefully we will try to meet our self-evaluation goals this year. All right, so I'm going to move on to E6, which is a discussion regarding ACT and SAT prep. Any board members want to discuss this?
Yes, I'll take.
Trustee Dragic?
Last year, our district paid a private company called Westchester Prep about $153,000 to tutor our high school students for standardized tests, SAT and ACT. The scores were average. Our students had a mean score of 1,078. That's the combined score, and the national average is 1,051. I'm in favor of providing this service to our students. I would just like it to be more effective for the students and also more cost-effective for our taxpayers. So I would like our new superintendent to really take a look at this and see how the service could be provided differently.
Okay, board. Does anyone else have any feedback? I see Trustee Warner, Trustee Washington.
Sure. Just from a historical perspective, if you go back to the point in time before we had an SAT program, the Woodlands High School average in 2014 was 894. By 2018, once we brought this program in, it had risen to 1047. So that was about a 150-point gain. So we felt pretty good about that. That was in 2018. So you're giving us newer numbers. You said 1078, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing something from a baseline of the high 800s. We're doing really well. I don't want to see that go away. So I'm not averse to finding alternative methods of doing the same thing or better, but I don't want to lower the bar. So as long as we keep striving to move forward on it, I'm happy.
I just have to.
Trustee Washington, and then
Okay.
Trustee Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam President. In reference to the ACT, SAT prep, I would like Dr. Iverson to actually look at the program, look at the data, to see if this is something necessary for our students in this manner. I would also like to advocate for our teachers that if we're going to spend this amount of money, if we could pour it back into our teaching staff or our guidance counselors who also are equipped to provide the services. Also, from a historical point, where I actually taught SAT prep in this building, if it also might be able to be scheduled in the day, that might be one opportunity. But I do agree, I'm not 100% sure if the board has ever had a presentation from this company to show the growth, or has the board ever sat down and had a meeting, I'm not sure. But I do believe anytime we contract outside, we should really have some type of, Dr. Iverson and Lisa, whoever else will become the next assistant superintendent of curriculum, should really bring certain data to the board so that they can let us know that this is an effective program. I'm not saying it was not effective, but I would like us to think fiscally responsible, bring our money back to our teachers and our own staff.
Okay, so thank you, Trustee Washington. I just want to remind everyone, we're after 10 o'clock, it's 10:25. I want to hear from Valen, Thomas, Pineda, please, on this SAT prep. Do you have any feedback? No, Valen passes. Thomas?
I just wanted to add something.
The one thing I would add is that as we think about, spending the money, that right now there are lots of schools that are no longer going to be utilizing the SAT and ACT, and I think that that's the direction that things are going to go in. And seemingly we do have to still make sure our students are doing the best that they can at it, and I think that we likely have people in the building that can help them to do so.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas. Trustee Pineda, do you have any feedback?
No, I think it's already covered.
Thank you, Trustee Dragic. I'm coming back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly respond to David that, and I'm sure Dr. Iverson knows this, that the SAT was really overhauled in 2016, and so that there was a general dip in scores. So I think that whatever data we look at should really be from 2016 and sort of compared to, national averages as well as, Westchester averages, et cetera. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
I would also request, and this may take a little bit of digging, if at one point we had in-house classes, that those classes go away and then a period of time passed and then we went out. Okay, so we're not really looking at an environment in which we saw whether we did it well in-house or not. So we could go back historically and see if we did well in-house and increase things from a baseline further back in time and take a look at that as well. So that's a little more work, but that's a good standard of comparison to make a decision. Do we go out for it or do we do it in-house?
Thank you so much, Trustee Warner. So I'm going to put this topic to bed. Again, it's 10:30 at night. Now we're into new business. I did speak to some trustees before. I know there are some new business items. If you would like to wait on your new business items, that's fine. I did speak to Trustee Thomas, had an idea of a barbecue. Trustee Washington had an idea of Board of Education paraphernalia or I don't know what to call it, paraphernalia. Trustee Dragic had new business regarding the website, SEL page, and posting data. And I was going to ask about a facilities walkthrough. I'm willing to wait on my new business. Trustee Thomas, Washington, Dragic, what would you like?
I can keep it brief.
Okay, I'll recognize you, Trustee Dragic.
Thank you. So I don't necessarily need an answer today, but I'm going to ask now at every board meeting what progress we have made in terms of updating our website, because I sent an extensive list, I think a couple of weeks ago, and in the meantime, I also got some community input, you know, that teacher pages and staff needs to be updated as well. So you don't have to answer the question right now, but I think in our board packet, it would be nice to have an update on what has been done. And then I also wanted, and this is really more for Dr. Iverson, that our parents have asked us to actually include an SEL page on our website, just because they would like to know what the resources are, especially coming out of COVID for their children, you know, what kind of support services our district will be offering. And parents would actually also like to see our data posted on the website. For example, just what we talked about, ACT scores, SAT scores, our Regent scores, our standardized tests, our iReady, our, you know, whatever it is that we throw at those kids. Some kind of a rendition of that on a website so that, you know, everyone can tell, you know, where we need to make progress, where we are making progress, and, you know, to make for a more informed and intelligent discussion about just the education piece. So
Thank you.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Trustee Thomas?
I can wait.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we have a back-to-school barbecue where we bring the entire community together, students, parents, us, administrators, and we, you know, have a good time, but also just have some conversations around what the community really is looking for going into the new school year. What are the needs? We're coming out of a really, you know, crazy time that I don't know that anybody has kind of gotten together in one place to discuss, you know, how we address. And I think that breaking bread with people is one way to, you know, to kick off the new year with a spirit that allows us to be the district that we can be. So I suggest we get that on the schedule, and I would certainly spearhead, you know, the planning of it and working with the community to get it going.
Okay, any feedback, trustees? Any input?
I'm okay with that as long as we take the current COVID and how that's happening and all that considerations into mind as we plan.
Who's going to pay for it, or is it going to be like a, I mean...
What would be the cost, Trustee Thomas?
I would open it up to the community. You know, I would take some of the responsibility on myself, but I would tell other people, you know, bring some chicken, somebody bring some potato salad, somebody else, you know, bring the burgers and the hot dogs. You know, make it you know, something that the community you know, takes care of. Potluck.
I hear Trustee Warner.
Okay, that works for me.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying something, no?
I said the word potluck.
Oh, you were saying potluck.
Potluck,
Okay.
yes, it works.
Okay. Anyone else? Any trustees? My only question is liability if we do potluck. Is this a district-sponsored event?
So I'm not sure how that works. So, you know, to have it as a district-sponsored event versus just, you know, kind of everybody talking and everybody showing up. So I think a district-sponsored event would be great. I just, again, I'm not sure of all of the inner workings of how that would need to go.
I see Trustee Warner.
I can say that in the past, we've had superintendent's teas and superintendent's breakfasts, which were traditionally held in the mansion, in the administration room, and there was, you know, a minimal breakfast of some kind. So it has been done before.
Yes, but what you're talking about is the superintendent doing that. I think what trustee Thomas is talking about is a larger community-wide barbecue, is what you said?
Yes.
My concern is, where is it held? Is there a liability issue? If we're bringing potluck, and I bring some potato salad I left out in the sun, trustee Dragic gets sick, who's she gonna sue? Greenberg Central School District. So if it's a district-sponsored event, then we have to do it a particular way. If it's not, you know, do we have it on our grounds? Do we, so that's the only, I think I would want logistics on that one. Those things worked out. I see trustee Washington.
I just think trustee Thomas maybe just comes up with a proposal, just like trustee Pineda said, look at CDC guidelines, come up with a date, and just come back to us. And I think all, you know, the liability, all those things we can work out together as a board to see if this is what we're going to move forward. I think it's a great idea. You're thinking community, you're thinking spirit, you're thinking image, which we do need to work, you know, on as a Board of Education and as a community. So these things, if you could just come back to us and we can talk it out, flesh it out, and work with you to see if it is possible.
Absolutely.
Did you hear her, trustee Thomas?
I did, yes.
Okay, awesome. And then you know what? If you put something together even before a special meeting, send it to me, I'll send it to legal, let them, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then, or send it to all of us, and then like everyone can give input or ideas or questions as well.
Will
And then
do.
we can send it to legal. I think that's a great idea. Okay, I see trustee Warner.
Okay, the board walkthrough, we agreed upon a date of the 30th of August last time. Is 10 a.m. an acceptable time?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You said a walkthrough on what date?
A facilities walkthrough on the 30th of August at 10 a.m.
Is that a Monday?
That is in fact a Monday.
I am able to do it, but I know we have other trustees that work, and during the day, I don't know.
Would you prefer an evening walkthrough?
I can do it that day. I'm on vacation that day, so I'm able to do 10 a.m. I don't know everyone else's schedule.
I can do it unless something comes out of left field, so.
Trustee Valen, Thomas.
I'm available. My question is, if we need staff, the facility staff to accompany us, maybe we should be checking with their, my query is, if we need facility staff to accompany us, we should probably be checking with their schedules.
Which is why we tended to do it during the day.
Okay,
previously.
so you're available. What about Thomas?
It's my intention to be out of town that weekend. It's my intention to be out of town that weekend.
Oh, so you're
Well,
not,
that weekend and into the.
you're not available. Okay, trustee Washington, Pineda.
Trustee Washington goes to work, but I will not be available.
And trustee Pineda?
That happens to be a day I took off. So, yes, I can make myself available.
Okay, so we at least have a quorum.
Is there, we will have a quorum. Is there another day that week that works?
You do not need to
Mind?
change the day on my behalf, just so you know. I trust everyone that's going to do the walk.
Okay.
And is it possible that, you know, if myself and Kiana want to do a walkthrough, that it has to be formal, that you know, perhaps we're able to come down and, you know, and Matt can do something quick? I don't
If
know
there's
how
less
that
than a
would-
quorum of the board, you have no problem, as
Okay.
long as the administration says, yes, you can come, and I've never seen an administration turn us down.
She doesn't plan to turn you down. Okay.
Are you good with it? She's good with
Okay,
it.
great. All right, so August 30th, Monday at 10 a.m. is the facilities walkthrough. We have 5 trustees. It will be noticed. Is it open to the public?
I think open to the public, we have to consider COVID.
Absolutely.
So,
So just board members. Is everyone okay? with-
Ivy's got the mic.
Oh, Ivy?
Yes, so it's 4 board members attending, that would be a quorum, so I would have to post it as a meeting of the board, a special meeting of the board doing a walkthrough, and then I would have to send it to the attorneys to see in terms of the public.
Thank you so much. So we will get feedback on that, on whether or not it can be open to the public. Thank you. And I think that's everything, board, unless there's any other, I see trustee Pineda.
so I just wanted to make a quick comment, specifically not specifically towards our audience, our listening public. You know, I'm very pleased with Dr. Iverson's opening statements and her plan. I think we're on a great foot. I think we're starting off on the right foot. I would also say that part of the comments really hit home on ensuring that moving forward, we're having a conversation, a dialogue with our community, soliciting their input, and ensuring that we're all on the same page, right, so that we move forward together in a positive light. That said, I think it would be a good idea if the PTAs, specifically the presidents, perhaps consider attending public comment sections during our meetings and provide their input and provide their feedback as sort of a informal liaison, right? They can take advantage of the public comment sections and give us their feedback as to what they see is going on and anything positive or negative, so that we just continue moving in the right direction. I would encourage them to do that. That's the only thing I wanted to say. Thank you.
You know, Trustee Pineda, things kind of, the stars align very often the right way, because one of the liaisons that I forgot is the PTA Council liaison. So usually a board member volunteers to be the PTA Council liaison and communicates with the PTA Council directly with the president, attends the PTA Council meetings, etc. I see Trustee Warner waving your hand.
I volunteered to be a liaison. That doesn't mean I will be the only liaison.
Is there another trustee that would like to be a liaison to the PTA Council?
Can you explain what exactly that would entail? Is that like being at every PTA meeting, or how would that work?
So what happens is that the PTA units for the individual schools have monthly meetings. The PTA Council has meetings far less often. It's more like every 2 or 3 months, and representatives of the individual units come to those meetings. You sit in, answer questions occasionally, or people ask, you'll provide updates on what's going on, the hot topics, more or less, of the school district. But mostly you're sitting there as a non-voting member. So you're truly a liaison. You're there to listen more than you are to talk.
I volunteer to share that responsibility with Trustee Warner.
Wonderful. So we have Trustee Thomas and Trustee Warner as your PTA Council liaisons, and I'm sure the PTA president is watching. However, I will send her, the PTA Council president, excuse me, I will send her an email indicating that the two of you are the liaisons, and to please let you know when there's a meeting so that you can attend. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up, Ashley, and hopefully as a liaison you will encourage the PTAs to attend our public comment sessions and make statements as well. Thank you. Okay, any other trustees with any other input? The time is now 10:41 p.m. Long meeting. No? Well then, can I get a motion, please? And the motion is on the very back page, and it's the last thing there, so.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Nope. Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned 10:41. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good night.